Lowe's knows that more projects mean more tools. For a limited time, new and existing My Lowe's Rewards credit card members can get 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more, in-store and online. Don't wait to get the things you need. Get special financing today. Lowe's. We help. You save. Now through August 27th, choose 12-month special financing on purchases of $299 or more. Offer subject to credit approval and cannot be combined. Minimum monthly payments required. See store at Lowe's.com for details.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the TNC Sports Talk YouTube channel. My name is Justin, and we are back with another podcast episode here today. On this episode, earlier on in the week, I want to kind of talk about two specific subjects in mind here. One is going to be Major League Baseball, as some transactions happened over the weekend, especially with the New York Yankees. And I kind of want to reference that in perspective of how, with the trade deadline coming up here later this week, how that can affect and how teams should be influenced to gain a few extra key players for the run at the postseason. Do also want to kind of talk a little bit, give you some updates about the NFL, as the Hall of Fame game is expected to take place here in just a few days. The Chargers and the Lions on July 31st. It will be the Hall of Fame game. And I know this game doesn't quite mean much to anybody. I don't expect that it does. It would. But this is the first in-game reaction that you get to, that teams get to start seeing. Now, I don't expect you to see starters out there this week for these two teams. I don't expect to see crazy plays. I feel like it's going to be nice, simple, easy going backups, position, players looking to prove themselves to get on the team, or write their resume to potentially be picked up by a team. But it does just give you that feel-good feeling in the middle of summer that, hey, football is back. And football is going to be here within about the next 6 weeks. So there's some storylines heading into the preseason that I want to kind of touch base with. But I do want to kind of just take this moment and kind of just do a little bit of a movie review, as Happy Gilmore 2 was released and on Netflix over the weekend. Got a chance with the family to sit down and watch the film. And I'm always skeptic about the outcome of these new films, taken from original classics. I'm always scared about the Disney films when they try to bring a Disney film to live action, because it really, how do I best put this? It's such a classic. People love to watch. For example, how many Cinderella films has been made over the year? And I know all of it doesn't come from Disney per se, but there's only, they tell different versions, and then they take an animated film, they cast it for real lives. They take, we talk about what they've recently done with Snow White, The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and it could go one of two ways. It could be a complete disaster, or it could be a hit. And I've heard a lot of feedback about negative reviews with, movies like Snow White, and yet, movies like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast and all of them, they get positive reviews. So I'm always skeptic, because you can originally ruin the original film. And the first Happy Gilmore movie, I believe it was 1996, when that movie was released. And it was such a great movie. It was such a great perspective, and they kept it simple. They kept celebrity simple. The storyline was simple, but yet entertaining. It was comical. It was serious. It was fun, family friendly, and almost nearly 30 years later, you're recreating a film and adding on to that story, taking place, years down the road. And you do get worried because not all the same cast can return. A lot of the cast members have passed on. Carl Weathers, Bob Barker, um, you know, and so you do kind of just get concerned about how can you really revamp this, and I think that's one thing that's so great about a Adam Sandler movie is that he plays homage, he plays tributes to everyone he could possibly get. And this film, hits it. It was simple. It was, you know, I like to call it one of those, and so it was kind of borderline for me because there are movies out there that are just dumbfounded comedy, right? It's stupid. It doesn't belong. It's like how was this even published? But yet it was fun to watch, and you just want a laid back moment, and then this is what you get. I like how it was an instant Netflix series movie. I like how you didn't have to go to a theater to watch it. I like how it was presented. Now, not trying to play any spoilers, so if you haven't watched it yet, as I encourage you to do so, pause, fast forward, so you don't get it, get any spoilers from this. And I'm not gonna try to put it in a way where I'm spoiling anything, but for me, it was, you know, Happy is trying to take care of his kids. He trying to overcome obstacles, and he resorts back to golf. And it's simple. So I really do like the film. I suggest you guys to watch it, if possible. And yeah, and it's fun. So, love to hear your feedbacks. What do you guys think about that movie when you guys have watched it? But I want to get down into baseball here real quick. Trade deadline's coming up July 31st. A lot of speculations, a lot of talks. Living in the Cincinnati area, I think it's just prone to kind of cover a lot of the Cincinnati news and the Bengals and the Reds, the Cyclones, FC Cincinnati, and stuff like that, as much relatable. And last couple of weeks, getting back into podcasting, trying to find those sports stories that really hit, has kind of got me just back to Cincinnati every time. Because we will be talking about Stewart here today, signing that rookie contract finally behind us. But, we look at the Cincinnati Reds, for example, who are in a position, okay, that they can possibly run here in the last 2 months of baseball for the postseason. Right now, the Cincinnati Reds are 7.5 games back of the Milwaukee Brewers in the NL Central. As a wild card perspective, Cincinnati are only 2 games back of the Padres, who currently hold that third and final seat of the wild card in the playoffs. And if, the argument would be is that we're at the end of July. We got 2 months of baseball. We are within arm's reach of potentially making a postseason run. And the last time we were realistically there were, 2-3 years ago, where I want to say it was 2 years ago. And then out of nowhere, we drop off at the end of September. And this is I remember, from what I remember, this is the year that St. Louis climbs up, has a spectacular 19-game win, to get into the postseason, and somewhere along the line we fall off. But I look at the 56-51 record, and if you would have told me as a Reds fan at the beginning of the season that we would be sitting at the end of July, okay, we're about to head into Bristow and taking on the Braves in the Speedway Series this weekend. We're 56-51. We're 2 games back of the wild card. We are that final team ahead of that next step. St. Louis is behind us, 3.5 games back. The San Francisco Giants are 4 games. Arizona's 7 games, followed by Miami. And those are the only other teams within a 10-game radius of a wild card position, because Atlanta is following by them 12 games back. So we got 4 teams plus ourselves who are contending, or I would arguably say contending, for a wild card spot this season. If you go back to the division, and I'm not just looking because you have Chicago, Milwaukee. Milwaukee holds the division. Chicago holds a 4.5 game lead as the first seed in the wild card. Philadelphia holds the second seed and 2.5 games above San Diego in the wild card. If you look about the division, Philadelphia is 1.5 games back of the Mets. And then the rest of the NL East is 11 games or greater. In the NL West, the Padres are 4 games back of the wild card. The Dodgers, excuse me. The Giants are 8 games back of the Dodgers. Arizona and Colorado, 10 games. So I'm not quite ruling that Arizona, Miami, Pittsburgh, in the sense, are out. Well, maybe Pittsburgh, 18.5 games out. I'm not ruling that teams that are 10 games back are ruled out of a postseason opportunity. But what I want to point out here is that the teams that are leading right now in the wild card, Philadelphia is a game and a back in the division. The Padres are 4 games back in their division. Right? Chicago is 1 game back of the division. Those 3 teams that are currently holding the wild card position, in my eyes, are focused enough to try and capture that division, that they're not worried about what goes on in the wild card, who is right behind them chasing them. They're only worried about is over the next, I'm going to say maybe 6 weeks, how can I beat and gain first place in the division? Now, the Reds are 7.5 games back, followed in their division, followed by a 9-game stretch for the Cardinals. If I were teams like the Reds, like the Cardinals, or even like the Giants, who are within are within 2 to 3 series from a division lead, but there are series, maybe 2, from a wild card lead. Your attention right now is to focus on the wild card, and respectfully so. Which leads me into transactions and what kind of moves that could be made heading into the back end of the season. The deadlines are coming up. A lot of rumors are at stake. I hear a lot about the Reds potentially trying to reunite with Eugenio Suarez. And I'm okay with that if he can contribute. I mean, earlier this year, the Reds got rid of Jameer Candelario. Just was not cutting it out. That was something that we have to eat. And, I'm glad that we had to do what we have to do. But I currently do not believe that our team is strong enough to maintain this level. They can maintain this level, but it's not enough to make it to the postseason. Is Suarez the missing link to get us over that hump? I feel like we're doing great in pitching, bullpen's working, hitting's working, everything's coming together. It's just, I feel like we're trapped in a position where we're missing those one or two players that could get us over the hump into that postseason opportunity. You know, I'm counting down the days. I sure hope that a guy like Ellie De La Cruz or Hunter Green would see the value in Cincinnati and remain a Reds forever. But truth come to told is that unless we start winning, unless we start representing the National League in the playoffs, National League Central in the playoffs, and we give ourselves chances to win the World Series, then there's going to be a contract that comes along greater value than and more promising on the field than what we can offer. And that's what concerns me. Because at the end of the day, the level of player that a guy like Ellie De La Cruz has, the type of player he is a top tier player right now for the Reds. Hunter Green's a top tier pitcher for the Reds. But if you go put them in with the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Phillies, the sky's the limit for them. It's not just being a top tier player anymore. It's being an all-star. It's being an MVP. It's being a player of the year. And if we can't get to that caliber, then the fear of losing them at some point, that window's closing eventually. We started this window. We talked about this years ago. Started this window where you grow, you build this young farm system. You start building them up within the talent. And now you're seeing everyone's already up here, minus maybe one or two guys fluctuating back and forth. But you bring them up, and now you're trying to see all this magic happen. Andrew Abbott's up, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo settling in, and now it's time to perform. And I feel like they're inches, they're there, but they're missing that one link. It's deceiving, though. I guess I don't know how I look at this, because earlier this past week we saw the Yankees making deals, and of course the Yankees are going to make the deals. They have the unlimited checkbooks, but they acquired the third baseman Ryan McMahon from the Colorado Rockies for prospects, guys like left-handed pitcher Griffin Herring and Josh Groves. And then they also acquired Ahmed Rosario, who could be a infielder, for a pitcher and an outfielder, in Clayton Beater and Brown Martinez. And I'm just thinking to myself, and I'm like, I wish the Reds could be that way. It's hard to change the dynamic of what type of office you are, whether when it comes to buying or selling. And let's face it, the Reds don't have those checkbooks. They don't have the extra zeros at the end of their bank accounts. So they have to be a little bit, and plus they still owe players that no longer play for them. And therefore, it makes it a little bit more complicated trying to add additional players. But isn't it worth it if you could say, hey, this fails, I'll take accountability, that's my mistake. But no one's going to blame you at sitting at 56 and 51, just a few games out of the wild card at the end of July. No one's going to blame you if you make a transaction deal that can benefit your squad reasonable enough to give them a fighting chance for October baseball. I would not blame the Castellinis or anyone in the front office, if they went to go and fell through and picked up Eugenio Suarez from the Diamondbacks, gave him up maybe a Sal Stewart or a Brandon Williamson in hopes that they have a chance at a postseason. It's hard to compare the Reds when you look at a team like the Dodgers, who even on their worst day are playing top tier baseball. But, and this would be for another story on a different time, looking at the Reds' upcoming schedule, because they're facing the Dodgers currently in a 3-game series, which they lost yesterday. You're looking at the remainder of August and September, and I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And reality is that we don't play well with our division. We have Atlanta 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. So out of 17 more series, about half of our series are with divisions. Now, unless you're telling me that we're going to, clobber the Phillies, the Angels, the Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, the Blue Jays, the Padres, and the Mets, and play 500 baseball, or a little bit better, which I hope they do, then throwing in another person in that lineup as a powerful guy. I hear this a lot, and I do agree. I think we're missing a key right-handed batter that can hit long bombs, that can be a powerful guy, specifically in the outfield. But I look at these transactions. I mean, for example, Seattle Mariners acquired Arizona's first baseman, Josh Naylor, for left-handed pitcher Brandon Garcia and Ashton Izzy. Now, I don't think that we necessarily need a Josh Naylor, but I just, why couldn't we kind of make those deals happen? And what I get nervous about is, this is July 31st is in 48 hours. If a deal's going to get done, I don't want to be the last dog at the table for it to happen. And what I mean by that is I kind of want to get a thumbs waiting until 4:59, 4:50, 5 o'clock, 5:01 to see a deal, other than just to see another team sweep in and capture what we could have got. So I guess my question, I'm up in the air. Obviously, you have to be cautious about who you would put on to that trade if you would make a deal. And like I said, right now, the only rumor is that I've seen out there is trying to get a third baseman with the Arizona Diamondbacks, Eugenio Suarez. And if they could land that, I think it's great. I don't think it's harmful. If he could help you win. Obviously, we'll look at who the Reds are giving up. I don't think that they'll give up anyone big, particularly. But if you're contending, this is the crunch time. You're sitting at the edge of your seat waiting for the next moves. And so what will the Reds do come trade deadline? The one thing that I absolutely hate, and I guess this is a virtue of reality here in professional sports, I don't like how the front office has a lot of involvement when it comes down to certain times of the season. I understand trade deadlines. I understand off seasons where they could shine the best. But I strongly feel, and I will testify to this, and I think I even said this last week. I strongly feel that the front office work needs to be done before anyone hits the field. Baseball, football, particularly. We're talking about football at the moment. I don't like how the office work, contract negotiations head into preseason. Becomes a leverage towards players who have the ability to sit out a few games of the year because those first few games are not required or not as intense or not as meaningful as the season has a long duration. An Ellie De La Cruz contract negotiation, if Ellie De La Cruz opts out, just hypothetically, this is just an example, of playing baseball for the first 6 weeks, doesn't necessarily have an impact on the outcome of the Reds season overall. We take a guy like Trey Hendrickson, who, if there's a decision, hey, we haven't made a decision yet, I'm going to either opt out for the first 2 to 3 weeks of the season, come back when it becomes more meaningful. It doesn't necessarily play a whole much of a dynamic of the outcome of the season. What I also don't like when you have open contracts and negotiations, in effect, heading into the preseason, heading into the regular season, mentality, I know it would be a disturbance for a player to perform at a level that he should be performing at, keeping in mind that he has yet to reach an agreement with his current team. And I'm just using guys like Trey Hendrickson and Shamar Stewart, as examples, because I'm sure there's a little bit of issues going around every team. Dallas Cowboys are always the talk of the century when it comes down to their office work during preseason. Should so-and-so sign an extension? What about replacing this player? A whole bunch of hoopla. But I'm glad that Shamar Stewart finally put pen to paper in his rookie deal. As a Bengals fan, by where I currently live at, I've watched the Bengals play over the last 3 to 4 seasons, and what gets to me every time, which I know we're not the only team, is that we start off slow throughout the season, and come Thanksgiving, we have put ourselves in a position where if we want to make it to the postseason, we would have to win the rest of the games on our schedule. And that's already stressful enough. Maybe Joe Burrow gets knocked up in the first few weeks, causing him to get hurt, causing him to play not 100%. Last season, the concern of T. Higgins, and where is he fully invested into this season, knowing that he could be looking into other teams this year. Trey Hendrickson, if they don't get a deal done solidifying, he's a key value to our defense success. Our defense gives up 30, 40 points a game, it feels like. Our offense has to match that. My point is that as a Bengals fan, speaking just strictly with Cincinnati, there are already conundrums and concerns heading into the season, even with everyone healthy. It creates stress, anxiety, entertainment, sure, but how much more can you add on top of that? To me, it distracts the preparation as a fan, as ownerships, as coaches. I'm sure Zach Taylor is looking into, well, have we gotten these contracts signed yet? Have we gotten them sorted out? And I just wish that all that went away come preseason, where all you got to worry about is football and, Joe connecting to a Jamar Chase, who is currently, by the way, ranked 99 in Madden from last time I saw a day ago. Congratulations to him hitting that 99 overall. So we got to find a way to handle our business off the field before season starts, so that when we come, obviously we have our own issues throughout the course of the year, but contracts and how, if a player is going to give us his all that disappears. Shamar Stewart, I'm glad, I'm relieved, because now all he gets to do, and all we get to watch, is him play football. Let him do what he's best at doing, and not worried about any guarantees, any contract stipulations. Not right now, at least. So, in relation to football, there was I've been watching on social media. The Chargers apparently returned to hold open practices or closed practices, to have practices in San Diego County for the first time since moving to LA. And I remember this was a big deal. Okay, the Spaniels got up, they left San Diego, went to LA, and then they didn't turn around. They didn't look in the rearview mirror. They didn't say, hey, this is where we came from. Let's come back and let's still support the fans of San Diego County. They took on Inglewood and Los Angeles and ran with it. They made the most out of it, and they left us in the dust. Well, Jim Harbaugh, the new coach, former player for the Chargers, maybe could be the influence of the Chargers' return. But I hear a lot of it being a scam, a scheme. Jim Harbaugh taking the Chargers back down to San Diego County, practicing in San Diego at schools up in Camp Pendleton, trying to show these fans, whatever's left of them, that the Chargers still care about the San Diego community, the Tijuana community, the Chargers fans that live down in Mexico that came up to watch the tailgate at Qualcomm Stadium, that they haven't gone nowhere. They're just right up the freeway, and we hope to gain their fan base again as we are starting to establish a product. And a matter of fact, this has grown to the point where even Dean Spanos comes out of hiding and attends and shows his face in San Diego County. Now, I take, like I said, I think I've explained this before. I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of the Chargers. That team was my home team growing up. It is hard to say let's move on from them. I will not support them, but I'm a fan of them. If I have to, I do support the Rams over the Chargers in retrospect. I will support the Bengals over the Chargers in retrospect. But it doesn't mean I don't want the Chargers to have that success. I'm that little person. I'm that person who has who's kind of like jumping on the inside if they win. Because the Chargers haven't done anything to me. Like I said, it goes back around to the ownerships. It goes back around to the decision making to up and leave. And I strongly feel that way. It is hard I can support a team. I can't support the ownership. And maybe I turn back around in a few years after the Spaniels, leave. Maybe they sell the team, whatever the case may be. And the future is officially beyond them. But until then, it's difficult to accept the Chargers as a fan base. I do not. So going back down to San Diego County, I feel like it's a great momentum for them. I don't think they're doing anything wrong. I think those who have hatred because how they were, a lot of people were screwed out of, the Chargers, season ticket owners, affiliates, players, former alumni who had radio stations in San Diego, felt abandoned, felt betrayed, displeasured. And I feel like they had the right to feel that way. Those are the ones who are not, well, now you want to come back after so many years. After you up and left us, you want to come back to San Diego. You want to come back and act like nothing's ever wrong, which this is not a Jim Harbaugh battle to face. This is not a Justin Herbert's battle to face. This doesn't belong to the Chargers to have to come back and accept. I feel like the best approach is if Dean Spanos could come back and make an announcement, talk to the people, explain why. That's where it starts off with. If there's any healing, yes, you'll get the fans who are loyal to the Chargers, who have been loyal to the Chargers, who just can't come up with a different team. You'll get their fan base back. No worries. But you're not good if you want to start turning the people who felt betrayed, who felt abandoned, who felt like they were being slapped in the face by by what happened years ago, by up and leaving. You have to, I feel like it only begins with the ownership. Because no matter how many times the Chargers could come back down to San Diego County, no matter how many times they could hold practices, they could hold stadiums, they could, hold pre-games, exhibitions, they could do media, they could do fundraisers and community events. They could do the whole 9 yards. But that's only going to bandage the wound and the scar, for so long. That adhesive on that bandage is going, you're going to try to hide up the reality. And a lot of the people in San Diego know the reality and knew what happened. And so you are only going to bandage that wound. I think the best way to start putting that scar, making it heal a little bit, is by addressing the elephant in the room. And still, you're not going to get everybody. You're not going to get a lot of people call for Dean's head at the stake, and maybe they will get that. But until they do, it's going to be a very tough, bittersweet time to see the Chargers in San Diego, to see them do anything affiliated with San Diego, and you'll get a nice, good 50-50 down the middle squad of people who support the Chargers and said, let's just get it past us, let's move on, because we have a team that's winning, who can compete and contend with the Kansas City Chiefs, with the Denver Broncos, and all that place. And then you're going to get those people who don't care. I'll go root for the Las Vegas Raiders practically done the same thing in Oakland before I root for the Chargers again. Like I mentioned, a lot of things going on this week. We have SummerSlam. I'm expected to my next episode. I kind of want to review and provide predictions of the matches. I'll be the focus point, hopefully at some point later this week. I also want to. We also have a couple of things going on here, and so I want to take this moment and just talk a little bit. I got approached, which I couldn't resist, about a project that involved interviewing and providing a live broadcast at the Butler Tech School of the Arts in Fairfield Township, Ohio, for August 1st and August 2nd for a theater production performance put on by Enlightened Studios Incorporated. You may be familiar with this company who actually I worked alongside a few years ago with their production, theater production called Love's Not Enough. I did a set of interviews and I did a live stream from their auditorium that they were hosting the play from. And I'll be back at it again with another opportunity as they put on a production play called Dinner with a Few Sides of Drama, a powerful and comedic stage adaptation of a classic 1967 film, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? Exploring the family dynamics, culture, tension, acceptance, and the truth. It's being called a hilarious, heartwarming, and Holy Spirit-led experience. The first performance will be on August 1st at 7 p.m. The second performance will be on August 2nd. The first one at 2 p.m. with a final one at 7 p.m. So, listen, it's been hot. It's been sticky out there. If you want to find something, if you live in the northern Cincinnati area and you're looking for something to do, get out of that heat, catch on a little performance, and maybe even be inspired your own to move forward in an opportunity. Enlightened Studios offers a lot of opportunities. I really think this is a perfect product for people to come out and tune to this weekend. I will be doing a pre-show and post-production show live there at the facility. It is a tech school. I was there earlier this week. It's a great place to be at. I encourage those to come out. There are tickets available at the booth. I will submit the link to get your ticket down below in the comments or in the information section of this video. So overall, it's going to be a great weekend. Very busy. We got SummerSlam. We have the Braves and the Reds at Bristol Speedway. We have NFL Hall of Fame game coming up. So very, very, very impactful weekend ahead of us. So don't want to miss it out. But that's what we've been working on here as of late, and there's much more to come. So that's going to kind of wrap up our episodes. What do you guys think about the Chargers visiting San Diego and practicing? Where's that? Is there conflict of interest in that? What is your guys' take on contract negotiations, maybe holdouts, influencing players and staff members throughout their preseason, and that leads into the regular season? And what is a big, bold prediction of a massive trade as we're just about 48 hours before the trade deadline in Major League Baseball? Those are the things I want to hear from you. Feel free to leave those comments down below. I'll read them, get back to you, maybe even talk about them on our next podcast. So until then, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And until next time, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.